Okay, at this time, we'd like to call the March 17th regular meeting again into order. First thing on the agenda is departmental reports, economic development. Mike James.
Thank you. One of the primary focuses for the IDA has been assisting local entrepreneurs. We assisted 5 local businesses last year with expansions or openings and have a couple of deals in the pipeline now. The first loan we made last year, as you all remember, from the Economic Development Fund, in partnership, of course, with the Board of Supervisors, was to assist moving forward physical therapy in Pennington Gap. They recently celebrated their first anniversary, and we announced recently that they've met all the terms for the first year terms for their performance agreement, which we're very happy about. Counting the 3 owners, they've created 7 jobs and greatly exceeded their payroll estimate. Project also involved the town of Pennington Gap as well because it's in the corporate limits, and it's certainly a success story deriving from everyone working together for a common cause. We also continue to feature Spotlight Business of the Month at our meeting each month. We've had businesses of all sizes from all corners of the county, and we'll continue to do so. Any business owner interested in being our Spotlight Business of the Month should contact my office. We feel strongly that assisting local entrepreneurs with job creation will continue to be a top priority. Nationally, businesses with less than 10 employees create over 1 million jobs each year. Construction should begin on the research and development facility at Lone Mountain in the next few weeks. The 4 temporary positions have been posted, and those folks should be hired very soon. We had a job fair in Pennington Gap, but it was scheduled right in the middle of the snowstorm, and it didn't work out. Those guys were already in town. We went ahead and had the job fair. It didn't work out that great, but we've gotten several resumes submitted, so those positions hopefully will be hired very soon. The O'Reilly Auto Parts store in Pennington Gap finally opened this past weekend. I know they had numerous delays. They had some geotechnical issues they had to get worked out, but we're glad they didn't have they're going to schedule a grand opening hopefully in the next month or 2. This was just a regular day of business on Saturday, but certainly we're glad they're open in the county now. Encourage everyone to check our Facebook page regularly as we post jobs available from the Virginia Employment Commission. I just posted a bunch on there today, as well as other relevant news. The IDA was pleased to assist the town of Pennington Gap with relocation to the interim town hall in our former call center building. We're certainly thankful no one was seriously injured in the fire, and we welcome the town to utilize the building as long as they need it. With the possible proposed move of the extension office there next door, certainly it would be a great central location for government services there for citizens. And on a final note, we had, as we all know, 2 to 3 weeks of inclement weather sort of put a monkey wrench in everyone's plans there during February and early March. It impacted everyone in the county. As my role as zoning administrator, I've talked to many property owners that suffered damage. But we can't forget that it also impacted our locally owned businesses. Restaurants, clothing stores, and home furnishing stores particularly were hit hard with lost sales for pretty much 3 lost weeks there. So we encourage everyone to shop locally, and if you're able, perhaps an extra shopping trip or maybe eating out an extra time for the next couple of weeks, help those local businesses get back on track. Also, the snow certainly slowed down the issuance of building and zoning permits. To date in 2015, we've only issued 10 zoning permits and 1 variance. A little bit lower than you would expect, but the weather as it was, most everyone that suffered property damage in the storm will not need a zoning permit to rebuild. So it's generally if you're only changing the footprint, so wouldn't expect that to increase that number very much. In addition, as I'm certain everyone knows, there's a public hearing regarding property rezoning tomorrow night before the Planning Commission. I anticipate a second public hearing before this board, either in April or May, but it depends on what the Planning Commission does tomorrow night. I've also visited 3 properties to assist property owners with zoning issues. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Crabtree? Mr. Thompson? Mr. Slink?
No.
Ms. Rupp?
No.
Thank you, Mr. James.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is tourism. Ashley Seals.
Hello, thank you all. I have a
packet to give to you all. I did include an overview for the original packet, but this one is more in depth, and will, if there's any questions on that last one, you're more than welcome to ask from it. But this one should be more thorough and focused. And it should be shorter than the one that I presented in December, seeing as it's just a few months. Again, thanks for having me. The big news is that our brochure is finished, as you all see. I thought it turned out really well. We had a great marketing firm. We have a great committee. Sing their praises a bit. They did a lot of work on this. It's great to have different inputs and different outlooks so that we can be sure that our brochure was thorough. The idea, again, behind the brochure was that whenever someone picks it up, it's as easy to navigate as possible. So when you open it up, you'll see that there's a map inside, and there's numbers that coordinate on the map with a description of what we are doing. So I don't know. I haven't had any complaints of it so far. I'm sure with any big project like this, you can't include as much as you would like. So if you all have any complaints or concerns, or if anyone in your district does, have them please call me, and it's not too late to get it on the website. So if anyone has any comments or concerned about that. We just recently had a committee meeting, and we voted to distribute 10,000 of our 20,000 in 91 locations. And I attached, that's the only attachment here, I attached where those would be. There are going to be 12 locations in Morristown, and then there are locations in Allen, Kentucky, Benham, Big Stone Gap, Bluefield, Virginia, and West Virginia, Claypool Hill, Cumberland, Kentucky, Duffield, Harlan, Lebanon, Norton, Paintsville, Pennington, Pikeville, Pound. A lot throughout Virginia. And then there's a lot, this is where I wanted them to go. I thought that we would have a good turnout from that, and that's on I-75 coming from Kentucky. So as you can see, Barberville, Bean Station, Berea, Lake City, London, Middlesboro. So we're going to have 10,000, which is half of our stock going out in our distribution area. So I believe that's going to be successful. Also, our website is almost completed. It is 90% completed. There's just it actually probably could go up, but there's just some small things that I'm trying to get edited and to get added in there so that we can optimize. I would rather delay it a couple weeks and get everything included and everything what needs to be in there and launch it than to have to do a lot of touch-ups afterwards. But I did include what is on our tabs. And if any of you all would, request it, I can give you the link where you can go look at it before it's launched as well. I can email that to you. But we have the homepage, which there you can request a brochure, and it gives an overview of Lee County. Then we have an artisans page, which includes several local artisans that sell products. So hopefully we're really hoping that will help our local craftsmen. A lot of them have websites, a lot of them have just phone numbers on there, and they welcome people to call, and they can come look at their collection and purchase. We have a weddings tab, which has been, people have kind of asked a lot of questions about, but during my recent training with VTC, Virginia Tourism Corporation is spending a vast amount of money on promoting weddings in Virginia, and so we do have a few places that people can get married here, and there's places to rent for a reception, we're going to be featured on their website, the Virginia.org's website for weddings, and I'm hoping that this will encourage. A wedding tends to be you don't have a lot of overhead. If you already own a really nice barn somewhere, you can rent it for $1,000 if you clean it up. if you already have the expertise of planning, you can pretty much just charge a fee and plan it for this area. So I think that's going to be helpful for us. And I think that will also help our local tourism businesses as well. I've already had one couple ask, because we don't have a barn right now that people can rent, which is a huge trend. And we already have a couple asking about that, and I'm going to look at that very, very shortly. And hopefully we can get some more venues on there, and we can promote Lee County, because we have a beautiful backdrop for weddings. And more they're becoming destination weddings. So not only are you looking at one of our local citizens getting money for allowing them to use their land, we're looking at catering, and we're looking at least 50 to 100 people coming and staying in Lee County the entire weekend. So these destination weddings are huge. I know a little bit too much about them because I just planned a wedding. But they're a whole weekend event, and on average, a wedding party and their guests through the weekend will spend about $50,000 that weekend, wherever they're at, other than the wedding cost. So that's the reason the wedding tab is on there. Lodging, it's already complete, and what I've included is our, Mother's Place, Valley Farm, Rowlett's Place, the bed and breakfast, things like that. We do have lodging in Lee County. People keep saying we don't, but we absolutely do, and we have some very charming places to stay, with some very amazing people owning them and running them, and making people welcome here. And we also included our campgrounds on that page, because we are a great place for outdoor recreation, and so people coming here, that will be helpful for them to know where they can camp and where they can't. We have a dining and shop tab, which is self-explanatory. The local businesses, the burger places, and the little the delis and all of that, they are featured on there, as well as our local shops are featured on there. Attractions, those are a lot close with the actual brochure. There's a few that we've added in there that we weren't able to add onto the brochure. But they have all of the information on how you can get there and all of that. We have the map that's included in the brochure, with each individual number. You can click on it and get the full information about that destination as well. Heritage, I think that was important for us to have heritage on there. We've included all of our parks, of course, and of course we're going to do a video on farming and coal, to kind of give people an idea of what there is, why we are where we are today. And we are a place where heritage is alive here, with the reenactments, and the craftsmanship and all of that. So we're going to, I thought that was important. And of course we have an events tab, where I will be adding events. It's a Google Calendar, pretty Google Calendar, and that way if someone's planning a trip, they can just scroll over to whichever weekend that they're coming, and they can see all the events that are happening in Lee County that weekend, so they can plan accordingly. We're doing a downtowns for our towns, just kind of highlighting their website and some photos and some places that they may want to see if they're in that town. And of course the outdoors, we're highlighting our hiking trails, our biking trails, we're highlighting our fishing holes, we're highlighting our swimming holes, we're highlighting the ATV trail, anything outdoors that someone can do. And this is really on the skirt tails of Southwest Virginia being branded outdoor recreation. So that's very important to us. And the last thing I want to talk about here is our cart. That's one of the things that has kind of stopped us a little bit. We are adding a cart to our website, so people can order hoodies and hats and postcards, and we're even going to try to get our local artisans to allow me to have a few of their things in stock. Souvenirs are usually reasonably about $20 or something like that. So that way that some of our local artisans, I can ship them for them and all of that kind of stuff. But this should be a great way for us to make some money. So I'm really excited about it. Of course, with our I Love Lee logo, we're going to do a lot of stuff with that. And we have the committee and I have been in talks with Mr. Gerald down in the western part, And we have worked out a contract with him for some of his photos, which are phenomenal. And so I really think that that's going to be a huge asset to us, and I'm very, very excited about it. I'm excited to see everybody with their bumper stickers. I did do a drive on Facebook for whoever would share our link and would comment and share. I would send them a bumper sticker, and so I sent out, I think, 30-some bumper stickers, which is kind of great. So I'm hoping to see those around as well. So that's our brochure and website. Again, the Crooked Road, I'll kind of breeze through this a little faster. The Crooked Road is the June 12th through the 20th. We're going to be doing some heavy advertising for that in the coming months. It's going to be a great weekend getaway for people. There's going to be Thanks Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We partner with the Lee Theater, Town of Jonesville, Wilderness Road, the Lions Club, the Jonesville Lions Club, the Lee County Historical Society. They're going to stay open all weekend, and it should be a great opportunity for people to explore the entire Lee County that weekend with music and crafts and food and everything we have to offer. Our tourism committee, we met in March. There was no quorum in January, and in February the weather just did not permit us to be able to meet. But the big thing that we've done, well, I think we do big things every time we meet. But one of the really big things that we've done recently is our marketing approach. This I Love Lee branding, and we have purchased 2 billboards, one in Kingsport, which is going to be a branding billboard, which is going to be I Love Lee. Our website. Visit us. Beautiful picture. This is where you need to be. If you want the mountains, you don't have to drive to Gatlinburg. We have them. And also on 25 in Kentucky. We have discovered that we can draw from that area quite a bit. And especially with the Mountains of Music coming up, that board we will be able to change that board. We'll put our branding up, and then when our big events come, we will change it to accommodate those events. General updates. Our Facebook, we have 748 likes, which is pretty great. I have spoke at the Historical Society and Triad, which I both thoroughly enjoyed. We are going to be, I'm in the process of collecting coal pictures, which I would love for anybody to email me. I did not receive as many as I would like, but I'm looking for you can take it of your son today. It does not matter as long as it's a coal picture. We're doing a coal heritage video and a farming heritage video for our website. So that's coming up. I'm still working on our Virginia.org listings. We talked about how important that was last time. And I'm also involved with the Tri-State Regional Trails Initiative, which is the Tri-State is trying to connect a huge trail to go throughout all 3 states, which is going through the National Park Service, and it's going to be really, really big for everyone involved. And also our MLP grant, we have Bates Family Farms. We've already submitted his request, and in Pennington Gap, we've already sat down and decided how we're going to approach those funds, and those should be requested within the next month. So.
Is somebody here in a gray Nissan type WZU 7392?
Yes.
That's actually it, yeah. So I'll take any questions y'all have. As you all know, with all of our offices, there are things that happen daily, and we can't update you on every single one of them. So if you all have questions or anything, just feel free to ask.
Doing a great job, thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
That's a lot of information.
I know, I tried.
But it sounds like you're doing a great job, Ashley. I appreciate you.
She's doing a great job.
Thank you.
It really is.
Yes, I would just like to say that it is a lot of information, but I can't say enough good things about what you're doing, about this brochure. We've needed this for a long time, somebody just to get excited about Lee County. I can see that you're very excited about and put everything together, and just this new information on the wedding and the barns, you're exactly right about that. I mean, you know, we've got that here in Lee County, and I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. And I'm also involved in planning a wedding now, so I know a little bit about that too. And the Google Calendar, I think that's a big deal. I love the Google Calendar, but if you can just get on a calendar and see what's going on, you know, you can plan your event, I think that's great. The logo, the one you had sent before, I really, really loved that one. This one, I'm loving it even more. It's really growing on me, so I appreciate that. And like you said, the pics are amazing. I know Mr. Gerald had something to do with some of these, but the rest of them are wonderful as well,
Yeah.
so thank you.
Say something. It's taken us 3.5 years to get this, and this is fantastic.
Thank you. I thought so. Everyone that was involved, I spoke at Triad and I said, I'd like to take all the credit for this, but the committee really, really helped me out a whole lot. So, I mean, if I could address Mr. Bailey, last time we talked about coordinating an event with the Martin Station Raid. So I talked to Scott about that, and there's only a small window of opportunity to coordinate anything with that, and that's because on Friday they have school children there all day. There might be a possibility for something at night somewhere, but most of their crowd, actually all of their crowd, comes that Saturday. And there's a raid at 1 and a raid at 8, and they have something on Sunday as well. So I'm talking with him about what we don't want to do is have something somewhere else and then them not be able to get back to the raid, or then feel rushed and just not do one or the other. You know, so we're trying to talk with him on if there's a possibility of something we could do Friday night to draw people here and maybe make them stay an extra night, or how's the best way to approach that, so that we can make sure everyone's still going to Wilderness Road, and also an event that we can plan. Does that make sense? Okay.
You've done a great job.
Thank you.
I really appreciate your efforts, and your committee's done a good job too. But I know you've spearheaded most of this, and your passion really shows. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Okay, next item on the agenda is Constitutional Officers Report. Treasurer, anybody got any questions? If not, at this time we'll move on to public expression. We'll now open the floor for public expression. Please state your name, and you've got 3 minutes to talk to us any way you want to.
Jerry Bergen, Okanee Community, 3rd District. Been a while since I've been here because I had a broke collarbone. Every time we had a meeting here, I was up in Kingsport in the doctor's office, so I didn't come down to see you folks. So I come down to see when we're gonna get trash picked up out of the creek. Johnson's been throwing over the bank for 30 years. It's now just about covered up. It's took over the whole county road. It goes to our property. Brother owns a couple 100 acres back on that road. We still have no home place. I was promised to have that done in the fall and spring. So I'd like to get there. I'd say most of it now is there. Back in the summer, probably with all this water that's come out of the mountain from the big snow, it covered a lot of it up. Now it's bad.
Oh, didn't y'all go over to what Reese talking about recently? Didn't Josh go over there?
I'm thinking, was his report last month?
Yeah.
I think in his report last month, he indicated that they had been up there.
Well, I read in the paper where he did illegal dump sites. I've been 6 years trying to get something done, so I don't know if that's illegal dump site or is it just some neighbor just throwing everybody wants to over the bank, tin or bottles or plastic, garbage cans, I mean, just all kinds of stuff. It's over the years. That used to be a big creek at one time. Now it's in that road. It's an old county road that goes back to horse and buggy since Lee County was Lee County. If you went to Hubbard Springs, you had to go that way. So I would like to get something done.
Can you get Josh and Mr. Poble and make sure we get an effort put on that? Okay.
But thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burke.
Are you watching the Roll Little People, Big World? That big do the weddings in the barn. I like to marry in church.
Anybody else public expression? Not this time, we'll close the floor. I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to bring delegations up for Corbin Stone for the audit report for 2014. Got a motion on the floor here, second.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Mr. Stone.
Thanks for having me. I may not have headlights to get home, so I appreciate it.
I don't think
Me up on the
I don't
agenda.
think it damaged it. It looked like it was more to the side.
Okay.
But I don't know for sure.
Oddly enough, we have office cars, and I borrowed somebody else's tonight. So my car's back at the office, and it's fine. I've got a handout for you to kind of go through the audit. First off, the audit went very well. Scott, who was with me, actually did most of the work, and I reviewed what he did. But the audit went very well, and I'll kind of go through the numbers with you, and then open it up for any questions. On page 1 of the handout, it should be a bound handout that everybody has in front of them. Mr. Slim, yours might be sitting right up here on the edge.
Which part? This part?
Yes, sir. And
All right. Any papers here?
you can see on page 1 there, we're just looking back from 2007 to 2014. And you can see general fund balance back in 2007 was $2.7 million, and it's actually grown to $9.2 million. And I'll kind of explain in a few minutes why that's pretty impressive. Of that, the yellow amount, or the yellow highlighted amounts, are your unrestricted balance. In other words, they're not legally restricted for any specific purpose. They're available to fund operations of the county, and basically your reserves at year end. Long-term debt, which is the green highlighted row, basically shows all the county's long-term debt, including compensated absences, so vacation leave and things of that nature. And what we can see is that debt per capita, which is that gray row at the end of the year, was $225. That's pretty low. That's probably the lowest I've seen any county I've worked with. So that's a good thing. I'm not encouraging you to go out and issue debt, but I'm just telling you your debt per capita is very low. The state average, the unweighted average, back in 2011 was $2,078. And we don't have numbers. The state's not updating those numbers annually anymore. So the last time we got debt per capita numbers statewide was back in 2011. Again, the debt per capita numbers are very, very good. And the next page kind of grabs it for you and tells you the whole story. And when we talk about general fund balance, and Mr. Slimp will understand this, we're more on what we call the modified cash basis of accounting, or modified basis of accounting, which is almost cash in, cash out. We look at short-term receivables and short-term payables, but we don't include long-term debt and long-term assets. The blue line are your unrestricted funds in the general fund, and you can see they've grown from 2007 to 2014. And the red column, that's your long-term debt, and you can see that's kind of been coming down over that same period of time. What's kind of impressive about that is, and I left my notes. Let me find my notes real quick. The average annual growth rate in your revenues from 2000, or the last 8 years, the average annual growth rate has actually been a negative 0.3%. So just your revenues have basically been flat over that period of time. But your expenditures, your operating expenditures, have actually been going down at negative 0.4%. So it's pretty impressive, and we haven't seen that. I've never seen that in the county. Normally, I see expenditures growing up 1 or 2% a year, in some cases 3 or 4% a year. But to have expenditures flat for an extended period of time is impressive. It tells me that you know what your revenue is coming in, and you're doing a good job of controlling your expenditures on the other side. So that information, along with this graph on page 2, really kind of lays it out for you. The next page shows your revenues, how they've changed from 2007 to 2014. Property taxes have been growing at about a 3.3% annual rate. So remembering that overall revenues are kind of trending downward just slightly, that lets you know that state aid, federal aid, those sorts of things aren't keeping pace with the normal 2 or 3% that we'd like to see. And that's not unique to Lee County. What we're seeing across the state is that just a flattening or even a decline in state and federal aid. So you're using more local dollars. If you have the same budget, you're using more local dollars each year to fund that budget. And in fact, in 2007, property taxes consisted of 31% of your revenue. In 2014, they were 40% of your revenue. In 2007, state and federal aid consisted of 50% of your revenue. In 2014, it was 45% of your revenue. So you've got this slow change that's occurring, that we're relying more and more on locally generated revenues as opposed to state and federal revenues. So it's happening across the state. It's not unique to Lee County, but it does tell us that local resources are becoming more and more important. I will tell you the top line up there shows your general property taxes, on page 3 that is. The second line shows state revenue, revenue from the Commonwealth, and you can see it trends up and it kind of seems sporadic. It's really trending along with your social services and CSA expenditures more than anything. So when we look at the next page, you'll see your social services, welfare expenditures essentially have trended along those same lines. The one thing I will point out, the same with federal revenues, we're getting kind of that same trend, although you have some capital projects that are a lot of times are federally funded. The red line right around the $3 million mark, those are other local taxes, sales tax, motor vehicle licenses, locally generated taxes. And if you just glance at that line, it looks like it's kind of coming down over this look back period to 2007. But there's a little trick in there. The state, back in about 2009, said telecommunications taxes are no longer local revenue, they're state revenue. And essentially what it was an effort to say, look, we're still funding you at the same level. But they just took a revenue that was really a local revenue and they said that's now state. So the telecommunications companies pay their taxes into the state and then it flows through back to you. Just a little trick that they played. But if we were to take that into account, those locally generated revenues would have been pretty much flat over the period. We would have been right at $3 million in 2014, and we were at $3 million back in 2007. The next page just shows your functional expenses for the year. The big line at the top, that's going to be your welfare, social services, and CSA programs. And you can see that actually kind of peaked out in 2009. We had a pretty good decline from 2009 to 2012, and then we're slowly kind of going back up. And I think we more or less bottomed out. The CSA program had some reductions in expenditures there. Didn't have as many kids, and that tended to bring those expenses down quite a bit. The next line down, the green line is public safety, and then the next line is education, and those are really the top 3 areas where you spend your money. Education tends to bounce a little bit around because any capital projects are essentially considered locally funded. So if you move money over to the school board for capital project, those are always going to be local funds. The next page shows your tax assessments by year. The only thing of note here, you look pretty consistent, pretty comparable to most localities. The top line up there is personal property and mobile home assessments. The only difference is in 2012, and in 2013 to 14, most localities we actually saw this increase kind of come back up to our levels from 2009. And for some reason in Lee County, those assessments actually went down in 2013 and 2014. And that's not the trend we're seeing in some other places. I know car sales have been relatively strong, and usually that's good for personal property taxes. That being said, since we've had strong car sales, in the long run, a few years after strong car sales, you do have kind of a decline in the used car market. As you have more cars coming off lease and things like that, they kind of flood the market. And that's what's being predicted for the next couple of years. So you may even see that decline a little bit further if we do, in fact, have more of a saturated market. Real estate taxes or real estate assessments, you can see that's the next line, almost straight across, bumps up a little bit with the reassessment, and then straight across again. And we have to put real estate in there at 1/10 of the assessed value. I think I tell you this every year. If we put it in at 100% of the assessed value, we'd have one line at the top and a bunch of lines grouped at the bottom because it overwhelms all the other assessments. But that's a good growth pattern in real estate. We didn't see the decrease like we did in so many places with the next reassessment after the collapse in the real estate market. It just didn't look like you were really affected by that. And then the other assessments, a lot of times public service seems to bounce all over the place. The state makes those assessments. We can't really determine the methodology or method that they're using, but they tend to bounce around. And machinery and tools has been on a little bit of a decline over this period. Again, those are going to be your local businesses and machinery and tools taxes that they're assessed for. And the next page, it wouldn't be fair to just go over the county's numbers. We'll also talk about the school board's numbers. And I think they've done a good job because they really were getting, state aid was really getting ramped up until 2009, and then the bottom kind of fell out. And that top line up there shows you what the state aid was 2006 to 2014. They got a little boost when that state aid fell. That next line down shows you federal aid. We had the stimulus money. And a lot of stimulus money was focused on education. So as state aid fell, federal money came up and really took its place. And took its place for about a year and then started declining. We're back now that our federal aid is actually lower in 2014 than it was in 2006 for the school board. And you can see state aid really hasn't rebounded at all. So to manage through and budget through that type of scenario where you've had a drop off, although kind of prolonged a little bit because of the stimulus money, nonetheless, you do have a drop-off. It's a pretty tough thing to do, and the school boards have done, I think they've done a good job. We saw a lot of school boards use this stimulus money to fund operating costs and that they really couldn't retract from and get themselves into trouble. So, but I think they have at least managed the budget. The next couple pages, page 7 and 8, are management comments. Really, I'll hit on the highlights. The one thing under the school board, some of these things are fairly minor. We don't necessarily need to go over them. I'll certainly be available by phone or email to talk to you about any of them. Prepayment of goods, basically in the state of Virginia, and of course at the end of the budget cycle, people want to go out and order. If they've got anything left in the budget, they want to go ahead and pay for things or order things. But in the state of Virginia, there's something that says you cannot pay a claim until it's received, audited, and approved. So you can't write a check for something you haven't gotten yet. So we told the school board that they had actually written a check at the end of June for textbooks that hadn't been received at that point in time. You have to wait until you get them before you can write the check. And you can't write the check in anticipation of receiving them. So we understand that that's a way to go ahead and use that final bit of budget money, but the right way to do it is to come and ask for a budget carryover from the Board of Supervisors. And we're going to encourage them to do that in the future. And really, that was the main management comment. We did have one finding in the report. Also dealt with the school board. It's just they have a VPSA technology program where they can submit a reimbursement request to the state and get that funded for some capital outlays related to technology. And they weren't filing the reimbursement requests in a timely manner. So we recommended that they go ahead and get all those filed and up to date. The state's not in any big hurry to get rid of the money, so they will let it sit there for a long time. But if you buy computers in July and it's a reimbursable expense, we want to see that request go out in July or August. We want to go ahead and get your money back. So they were kind of lax in getting that reimbursement request out. We didn't see that in other programs, but we did notice it here. So that was actually in the audit report. But overall, the audit went very well. We were very pleased with what we saw. From a budgetary standpoint, I think that the county's doing a really good job when revenues are flat or decreasing to build fund balance during that period is, and I don't say this much, it's impressive. So we don't see that. Good job. The other handout, you've got a new accounting standard that's going to go into effect for 2015. And basically it says you're going to start reporting your VRS liability on your full accrual statements. When we talk about fund balance, we're talking about the modified cash or the modified basis of accounting. You really have two sets of financial statements. The full accrual statements, which show all your assets and liabilities, and then the modified statements, which are just mainly cash inflows and outflows primarily. On your full accrual statements, which you show the value of this building, the depreciated value of this building, you're going to start showing a liability for your VRS, your retirement. So will the school board. So that's going to be a pretty big liability that's going to hit the books for the first time. We really don't know what the impact is going to be because to this point in time, VRS hasn't had to calculate that liability using the parameters that are defined in this standard. So that's certainly going to change. Your liabilities are likely going to go up. What that means for you in the long term, it means that VRS rates are probably going to be fairly high for an extended period of time because most communities, and it's not that you haven't been paying in what they've been asking you to pay in. The markets just haven't done as well as they would have liked. So when you send them $1, they hope to earn 7% or 7.5% on that dollar through their investments. If they don't earn it, you develop a liability over time. So what we expect to see is just an inflated VRS rate for an extended period of time. And what this standard is going to do is more or less force the state to deal with it. Because it's not just Lee County, it's state employees, it's the statewide teachers pool. All the retirement through VRS, it's going to force the state to really say, we need to step up and fund this at a state level. But what that means for our local governments is, I think the VRS rates, they've probably been going up fairly consistently for a while, but we expect that to continue for quite a while, probably as far out as we can see. But again, I think it's better to acknowledge those things and start addressing them than to ignore them. So I think that's a good thing too. But I'll stop there and answer any questions.
Mr. Gregory.
Thanks.
Mr. Mosley.
No, thank you.
Mr. Lincoln. Thank you. Ms. Rutherford.
No, thank you.
Thanks so much. Hope
Well,
your car's okay. If not, we've got a good body shop that just opened up a road up there. We can use all the business we can get.
I might be spending the night too. So. I really appreciate you. Thanks for moving me up on the agenda. If you do have any questions, my contact information is on the front of that presentation. I'm happy to do anything I can to help you. So,
Thanks so much.
thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is approval of minutes, February 17, 2015, regular meeting, and March 9th, special call meeting.
Mr. Chairman, before you approve those, on the February 17th, on page 9, the accounting clerk advised me she had one of the line items wrong on there, middle of the page, page 9 under Sheriff's Department, where it says expenditure DMV overtime grant. The last 4 digits in the minutes says 1345. That should actually be 1350. That was just discovered today, so that correction needs to be made before they're approved.
Okay, can I get approval with the corrections?
So moved.
Approval here, second.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Refunds, AH Reynolds LLC.
Also, we have another refund request that the commissioner brought by. Have you distributed that? Okay, there should be at each one of your station. Taxpayer's name is Anthony Briggs. He bought property mid-year. The previous owner, the taxes were paid and prorated. The previous owner paid their share, but was not a qualifying disabled veteran. Mr. Briggs is. And so the commissioner is recommending a full refund of the amount of taxes he paid for 2014 of $162.94.
I'll make a motion, we approve both these refunds.
A motion here, second.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Opposed, none. Okay, next item on the agenda is payroll. County Administrator reports that payroll warrants have been issued. Approval of
Pay the
disbursement.
bill.
Got a motion to pay the bills. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Okay, rescue squad. Mr. Poe?
I did not see anybody here.
Is that the man with the card?
Unless he was, I don't know. Freeman is the one who called and asked to be put on the agenda. I can check and see it.
Well, if he comes back before the meeting's over, we can go ahead and
All right.
we can amend it to bring
There
him
he
in.
is.
Right there. There's one right there.
Oh, okay.
Huh?
Y'all ready for me?
We're ready.
Come on down, the price is right.
I was waiting on somebody else, but that's okay. My name is Freeman Vandergriff. First Lieutenant Newton Rescue Squad. And I know I got a couple things I'd like to discuss with y'all tonight. First one being is the addendum to our emergency plan. Excuse me. According to state EMS, we now have to include our response time, getting in and out within 5 minutes, and then route within so many minutes, and on scene within 30 minutes, at least 90% of the time. And we had put in our service area. Excuse me, I'm short-winded coming up the steps. So, only thing I need is the board to look at this and to approve it to add to the county and their emergency plan. I believe last year, March 10th, the board approved this emergency plan. Would you like to look at it?
I think we got it off you now.
Okay. But this is just an addendum to that. That's all we're asking for. So, I'd like for y'all to consider that.
So we need to make a motion on it, Mr. Bowles.
It would require a motion. As he said, we approved the responding time standard that's required by the state last year. Asked Mr. Bailey to check on that. They advised him that it would not hurt to reinforce that each year. Last year, it did not include the service area, but in looking at what he's got on here, that appears to be the area that they serve.
And we had to specify those times, you know,
Right.
getting in and out.
Can I hear a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Motion here, second.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, none?
Okay, the other thing we got for you, we need help. The letter I sent you all, our service area has greatly increased. We have taken over Stone Creek area, St. Charles, and so far up on 606 to Keokee. And our fuel bill has almost tripled. For the last 2 years, almost the last 2 years, we have run all of St. Charles's rescue calls. And with our hospital closed, the trips we're taking to Lonesome Pine, Harlan, Kingsport, Johnson City, it's killing us. It's wearing our trucks out. And it's increasing our fuel considerably. And so, you know, I'm asking the board to consider here tonight, if we're gonna run St. Charles's area. I remember several years ago, I was on a committee to work on the 911 system. And we were asked to go over and look at Woodway Fire Department. We had some people come in complaining about it. And so we went over and looked, and the board shut them down and offered the area to Pennington. Pennington said they would if they get Woodway's funding to help with the cost. And they've got a truck placed over there, and a couple members do live in Woodway. But what we're asking for is, if Pennington Fire Department did that several years ago, why can't we get St. Charles funding to help us? I mean, we're running a lot more miles, a lot more fuel, and we're barely getting enough to pay our own bills right now. So we need some help financially.
You got an estimated cost of it, what it's costing? I mean, do you have any things to show us how much you're spending extra?
Not with me, no, sir. I was going to bring down a copy of our report that we sent to the CPA. It's broken down and everything. But, you know, what I have in the letter is off of that report. So.
I'd like to see some numbers.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't care, to get them together like before the hospital closed, get the numbers together and see what how much extra it's costing you. If you maybe get it to Mr. Poe or something, then we can We can deal with it accordingly.
Is St. Charles not in operation at all?
No, sir.
So they just closed down?
No, sir, they're not closed down. But Stadium S is looking at them awful hard right now. They haven't sent anything into the Office of Emergency Medical Services in almost 2 years. Each year we have to file our runs and everything, the activity reports. They haven't done
Mr. Poe, when we done the $1,000, did part of it go to the St. Charles?
Well, they haven't claimed theirs for this year, and I, of course, when you called the other day to be put on delegations, you still have this year's money available. If you can provide me receipts on, copies on receipts for 10,000 over and above what you provided back in October, I can go ahead and release this year's money as well, which the board added an additional 1,000 to that. There's 11,000
thank you.
available
We had an
there.
additional 1,000 because we
Thank
knew
you.
you guys
So-
were making extra trips already.
If you can provide that, but if you'll give me the other information, I was going to suggest that we take the time to gather some information. I worked with Alan Bailey to gather some information on the number of calls that are coming in from the St. Charles area, and pull all that information together and
that.
bring it
Well,
back
I'm
to
supposed to
us.
go on the CAD system and run that off on him, but he's been
Yeah.
real busy, I've been able to get to it.
I had talked to him just briefly about this when you sent this information in last week, but I haven't been able to get back up with him to try and pull any numbers, but we can put something together.
So you can go ahead and draw that down now, Mr. Van Griff, I guess, right, Mr. Poe?
Yeah, just
And-
provide me the additional receipts since I
And
think
then
you
we'll compile
submitted
the
in
list
October.
between now
I
and
think.
next month's meeting.
Uh-huh.
If you can get some information back to Mr. Poe, then we'll adjust accordingly.
Yeah, we want to make sure you got enough
Yeah.
money, rather than
Well,
say,
we're-
here's some money.
Yeah.
We've already, with the increased runs and everything, we've already had to replace a transmission in one truck, because we can't afford to buy another truck right now. And I was gonna try to get a grant in this grant cycle, get one, help us, state get us one, but I hadn't been able to do that.
Right, yeah,
So-
get us some good numbers, some concrete numbers for us to look at.
Yeah, I think that'd be good.
Okay. Well,
We'll take care of you, because you all take care of us.
I tell you, there's a lot of people dependent on us in all the snow.
That's exactly right.
Could I have to fax this up to Ron Kendrick, the addendum, can I get one of y'all to sign it tonight, the chairman?
That's fine.
He done there.
Good news is, we're gonna get our hospital back.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That'll save you some trips to Big
That's what
Stone.
we're hoping for.
Yeah, we should know the 31st this month.
I hope so. Everybody's hoping so. Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is finance, monthly and quarterly appropriations.
Make a motion, we approve resolution 15-006.
Have a motion on the floor, here, second.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
this gentleman that had to go out, I don't know if he wanted to speak during public comment or
And
not.
we had a little altercation in paint out in the parking lot. And I kind of got delayed out there for a little while.
Okay, if you was wanting to speak, you come on up,
Yes,
please.
sir, I did.
Okay.
All right.
Just tell us your name and,
Sure. Sure, my name is David Wagner. First of all, I want to appreciate all of y'all, what you do. It's hard. All of you's probably got jobs and everything else and upon all this. I live in a seminary community. I think I should have came about 7 or 8 meetings ago, probably, or 100. But I'm learning now that the only way you can keep up with everything in your community is come to these meetings. What I'm here today is, and I think I'm probably, like I said, quite a few meetings too late. We have a dumpster area there at the corner of Seminary Loop and Cave Springs Road. It's been there probably open dumpsters, no fence or nothing for many years. There's 4 springs above that. It feeds that creek, and the creek's probably 15 or 20 foot behind the dumpsters. And I live along the creek line down the creek before it gets to the river. And if it rains a half inch or so, I can get a couple of bags of trash. Every time it runs a half inch or so, it runs from that whole area there. There's 3 springs that feed that right below them dumpsters that comes from one side of the road to the other. I hear by local people up there that they're going to move those dumpsters down in that more swampier area, along right beside, pretty close, real close to the creek, and along with those springs and wetlands. And knowing that area, you can walk through there, right behind them dumpsters, all the way down through there. In the driest part of the year, it squishes under your feet without no water, no rain. So what my concern and worry is about, I don't care how far you build it up, drainage out of that area, whether it be out of the dumpsters or on the ground or whether it's rocked up, it's just going to create a big mess because it stays wet, and then when it rains, that water will go over across Cave Springs Road. And that's above them dumpsters. Right now, the dumpsters sit 7 or 8 feet above that area, and it still gets in the creek. And so even with the fence and the rock, and I'm telling you, it's going to be a bad situation. That's all I can say. And I hope y'all, I hope I ain't too late to telling you this, but I'm telling you, that's what's going to happen. It's a mess. It ain't nothing but a wet springs all the way down through there. Springs coming up everywhere, all the way down through there. And I hope I'm not too late telling you this, but my main concern, I think they should be up front. I know it's a hard thing to figure out, and people ain't wanting to give you the land. The ideal spot, and I'm sure y'all already said this 100 times, but up there on the 4-lane would be a perfect place. You can keep more control, police can watch it more. Down there where it's at, there's a lot of activity all through the night. I'm talking all night long. Activity there, bad activity. And if it's on the 4-lane, you could watch it closer. It wouldn't be down in lowlands. That whole valley, if you go up there and drive down through there, it winds up down there on that creek. That whole Wallens Ridge, contributory to that water, runs right there behind them dumpsters and right there where everybody's wanting to put these other dumpsters. So that's my concern. I appreciate y'all's time. And if I'm not too late now, hopefully I'm not, but I just want to let y'all know what's fixing to happen. And I don't know if everything's been passed, if the EPA's looked at it and said it was all right, if the state, and I'm just concerned, and that's the reason I'm here today. So, but the place stays in the hottest part of the summer, down through there, it's squishy under your feet. It's springs all the way down through there in that lane, so I don't care how far you build something up trying to get it away, that drainage is going to go right in there. So, thank you for your time.
How's your car?
Sir?
How's your car?
My car,
Is it okay?
it's fine. Just a little bit of paint. That's
Sorry
it.
about
So
that.
it was all fine. So, has anybody got any comment, or how far we gone on this thing so far? Or?
We have looked all the way from the top of the winding stairs, all the way back up to where that road, the loop comes out on the 4 lanes.
Yes, sir.
For a place for the dumpsters, and there is no place on the 4 lanes that we can get to put the dumpsters. There's just no place that is suitable.
Well, where they're at now ain't great either. I'm not either.
It's not.
You
It's
can
not.
see, you go down and look.
We have, since the 4 years or 3.5 years I've been on the board, that has been the one thing that I have been trying to do, is find a new place for the dumpsters that is suitable. Dane, you have any comments?
All I know is it's wet ground all the way. I mean, it's wet springs all the way down through there. Springs come from everywhere.
We've not acquired the property yet. We have, we've come to an agreement with the property owner. We've been waiting for preliminary approval from VDOT on an entrance permit there. They have given verbal approval at this point. I mean, we'll have to do a formal application. It will still require a special use permit as far as zoning, which means the application will be filed, and I'll be doing that within the next few days probably. We have not had the property surveyed yet, but we'd be filing an application for a zoning permit for that, which means it would require a public hearing, 2 public hearings actually, one before the Planning Commission and then one back before the Board of Supervisors before it could be approved for that use.
Right, and when will those meetings exist in the future?
Yes, the one for the Planning Commission will most likely be at their April meeting, which will be about this time next month. And then the one back for the Board of Supervisors would probably be in May, either April, May, or May, June.
Right. Well, like I said, I really appreciate what all y'all do. And I appreciate Mr. Slint for doing what he's trying to find out to do, but down there, it's just wet springs everywhere.
Well, I've had the same concern because I know how wet that is in there, and I've asked
Oh, yeah.
if, what the situation will be as far as drainage is concerned in that area, because it is wet all the way from there, all the way out.
Out to the end.
Out to the end out there.
There's 3 springs below it. I mean,
Yeah.
it'd be a mess. I mean, if they tried to go in there and dig anyway, or even add gravel on top and thinking that's gonna stop the seepage into them springs, I mean, I just take that see that hat myself, and it needs to be up on the 4 lane somewhere.
Johnny Bond, this week mentioned to me about on the other side of the road that he was gonna look into maybe checking with those people and see if there would be some land available on the other side of the road, which I hadn't mentioned to Mr. Poe.
On the other side of which road?
On the other side of the
Cave Springs or
Yeah.
Seminary Loop,
Seminary Loop.
across the road.
Yeah.
So you got Cave Springs going down through there, and Seminary Loop is that big loop. If everybody been up through there, it comes all the way through there and comes back out on the 4 lane. So
The field right across from where the dumpsters are now.
Same side of the road?
No, the other side of the road.
there's no creeks over, I can say that.
Can't
but
picture
no
the
springs.
field, but we'll be happy to look.
Is before you
Go
get
up
to
there
where
a
they
little
are
bit.
now,
It's
Charlie,
on the right.
Do I?
You need to-
It's before you get to where it is now.
on the right, where there's a little old back
Just-
road that goes up
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
there.
Just
Back
after you
road
come off
runs
the
right.
winding stairs before you get
Right.
to the cutoff.
Right.
Okay.
Who owns that?
He was on it, well, he told me who it was, and he
I can look at
check
it.
with it and see if they might be
You know,
interested. in-
that's something we need to look at real hard. We don't want to create another mess.
I'm just.
But
that's
the
the
reason-
time-
You know,
It's
the reason
right.
that stuff's getting in that creek is because that place is not fenced in.
Yeah, and then off the back of it, like in the wintertime, just anybody can just drive up there and look. I mean,
Well, we have a problem with people dumping there after hours, and that's the purpose
Yes.
of trying to get another location so we can be fenced and
Right.
locked up at night, so that
I'm
we
all
don't
for
have
that.
that problem.
Plus, all night long stuff going on
Yeah.
up there. I mean, I hope I help as far as telling y'all what's going on, and I just think that that area is just springs all the way through there, so
Well, it's not a done deal yet, so maybe we can keep looking.
appreciate y'all's time.
Thank you, Mr. White.
Thanks, sir.
Did we get all the monthly quarterly appropriations? Calling over.
Yes,
We don't have one.
Okay.
yes, we're down to new business now.
Next item on agenda, new business, board appointments, building code appeals. First one's Larry Flannery of Dryden.
Yeah, I talked with Greg Rasnick, and he said he probably would take it.
So is that a probably
So, yeah,
motion or?
Yeah, that's a
All
motion.
right. So I've got a motion on the floor for Greg Rasnick. Here a second.
Second.
A motion second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next one is Doug Graham. I'd like to reappoint Doug to that.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Robert Hines, Jones.
Repoint Rob.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Wayne Bonham Jones.
make a motion, Wayne be reappointed.
Okay, got a motion here, a second.
Second.
Got a motion, second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, none. Drought and Water Authority.
I make a motion, we reappoint, Mr. Gates.
Okay, got a motion here, a
Mr.
second.
Gates.
Second.
Got a motion, second, all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed, none. Planning Commission,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Donnie Brooks, serve District 2 Planning Commission.
okay, got a motion for Donnie Brooks here, a second.
Second.
Got a motion, second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, none. Next one is Mike Brindle, here in Virginia. I'll make a motion, we reappoint Mike.
Second.
Got a motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, none. Social Services,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to appoint myself to that for several months until I can find someone.
Second.
motion, second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next is Deanna Robbins, opinion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to appoint Michelle Warner.
Second.
Got a motion, a second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? None? Crooked Road. Ashley Seals.
Make a motion, we reappoint Ashley.
Got a motion here, second.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Rabies clinic schedule, Mr. Pope.
The state code requires that any rabies clinics held in a county has to be approved by both the health department and the local governing body. Lee County Animal Hospital has proposed a schedule for clinics in the county the first 3 Saturdays of May, May 2nd, May 9th, and May 16th, and I would recommend approval of that.
Okay.
Make a motion, we approve this rabies clinic schedule.
Okay, are these dates set where these clinics will be on these dates?
Well, they'll have various locations. They usually split up and go to different locations on each Saturday. They'll provide that information at a later date.
Okay, got a motion on the floor here, second.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Sheriff's Vehicles Finance.
We currently have 5 new cruisers on order. Delivery is expected later this month or in early April. 3 of these vehicles are partially funded by Rural Development Community Facilities Grant. The remaining 2 vehicles are fully at county expense, and we budgeted for these to be bought on over a 4-year period with an initial down payment of 25%. With payments on the remainder over a 3-year period. We requested financing proposals from local banks recently and received 3 responses. Lee Bank and Trust, Farmers and Miners Bank, and Powell Valley National Bank all provided responses. Farmers and Miners Bank has the lowest rate regardless of whether it's tax exempt or not tax exempt. I talked with Mr. Stone earlier, and there should be no problem with it being a tax exempt debt issue, as we will not be issuing more than $5 million in debt this year. So the rate of 1.475% would apply, and I would recommend the board approve that rate with Farmers and Miners Bank.
Okay, do you hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Got a motion here, second.
Second.
Second, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Full-time due clerk of Circuit Court Deputy.
Upon the death of the former clerk, the chief deputy for that office was appointed clerk until a special election could be held. The chief deputy accrues leave time, as do all full-time employees, in accordance with state comp board and county policies. Upon accepting the interim appointment as clerk, She was no longer eligible for leave time, but her previous position is required to be left vacant, so that in the event that she does not seek election to that office, the position is still available for them to fall back into after the special election. Accordingly, at that time, her accrued leave time was not paid, since we were not sure if she would be leaving that position in the end or not. But eventually, she was elected as clerk. But at this point in time, we still need to resolve the unpaid leave time that she had when she was the chief deputy, since it has not been paid. We had a similar situation as this with the treasurer's office just a few years ago, that we had to pay out the accrued leave time.
That's state policy?
Pardon?
That's state policy on that, or?
Well, they fall under, we have sort of quasi-county and state. Now, the state doesn't fall back and pick this up because they've moved out of that position now. If they were still in that position, they would take that time off. But because they're out of that position and moved to something else, that doesn't, they can't draw salary under two different positions at the same time. It's basically what it falls down to.
Is there a policy that the employees accrue any amount of leave time?
No,
Or is there a
their
limit?
leave time is capped. It depends on how many years of service that you have, but the most that you can accrue is 288 hours. Once you have 10 years or more of employment, 288 hours is the most of leave time that you have available to accrue.
So we don't require employees to take a vacation each year?
No.
Just carry it over?
No. But if you reach the max and you don't take it, it's use it or lose it at that point.
Well, I don't think I understand this, to be honest with you. I mean, this is a state job and we're paying the money?
Well,
I mean, that don't make good sense to me.
It's
We got a 5% reduction from the state, according to the auditor there a while ago. You know, this is another reduction, I guess, from the state.
it's
We
a
pay their bills.
quasi-state local position. The salaries in the clerk's office is reimbursed by the state.
Right.
Benefits are not. And we are required to provide state or constitutional office employees, we are required to provide them the same benefits that we provide to county employees. I should have included that in the memo. That's just like health insurance. Nothing in the state comp board policy says you have to provide, or that they don't pay any cost of health insurance. They reimburse something like 2.13% of retirement. We pay 12-something% in retirement. So the state reimburses 2% of that. They used to reimburse the full amount. But still, other state code says we have to provide the same benefits to employees of constitutional offices that are provided to county employees.
So who was the chief deputy this time?
At this time,
Yeah.
I'd have to check and see. I'm not, do you know for sure? I don't know
Is that who
who.
we're paying?
Pardon?
Is that who we're
No,
paying?
you're paying the employee who is now the clerk, the former chief deputy.
Okay, so after she took office, after the death, did she not receive full compensation?
No, she was not paid
She
for
still
any of
stayed.
this. It was frozen because at that point in time, we did not know if she would be leaving the chief deputy's position permanently. See, it's left vacant until a special election is held. That position is not replaced.
So she was a county employee?
No.
She was an employee of the constitutional officer, the clerk,
So why can't she continue to carry this over?
because constitutional officers do not carry, they do not get leave time. They do not get vacation
Since she's
or
been
anything
elected,
else.
she was temporary.
Yeah, she's moved from a employee position to actually being the constitutional officer now.
Did her salary change at the point where she took over
When she became interim, it changed to the clerk's salary.
to the clerk's salary?
Yes.
Well, how is
So,
this?
so how are we supposed to pay her for something that she was getting more money for anyway?
This is time that she had already accrued.
This is time that she had accrued prior to
Up until
moving
then.
to the interim clerk position. It was time that she would have been due had she left county employment or employment at the time of the death of the clerk.
Okay.
How is this gonna show on the books?
It's additional expense to the county.
As what?
Accrued,
Salary.
Yeah.
Salary?
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, now, my next question is, if you got FICA down here.
Yes, it's included in that.
How about FUTA and state unemployment?
That won't be a factor because this is leave time after the fact. She would have already maxed out in the year that she was serving as an employee.
Of somebody
She would have
else?
already crossed the $7,000 or $8,000 threshold, whatever it is now.
And you don't have to withhold the state or federal from this, is that right?
No, she'll be withheld taxes.
Oh, okay, you're just adding our match to
Yes,
that.
I'm adding our
Okay,
match.
gotcha.
It's the local, the employer's share of the FICA. It's being
Okay,
added.
so when budget time comes, Mr. Poe, you think you can find $5,038.68 to take out here?
I'll have to find more than
There you
that.
go, Mr. Poe. I guess we need to go ahead and approve it since it's accrued time.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion, here second?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? So much stuff's hard to understand, Mr. Poe.
I understand,
You do?
yes. I understand that it's hard to understand.
A lot of information.
A lot of information here, a lot of information.
And, well, when you get into the employee situation, I mean, that's just like with social services. Are they state employees or are they local employees? They're sort of both. Same is true of constitutional officer employees.
They're local employees because they live here.
Yeah, no one wants to claim them, I guess, but somebody has to be responsible.
Richmond claim a few of them. Transfer station contract change order number 1.
Okay, this gets even better.
Oh, my goodness.
I had hoped to have an actual change order to show you tonight. We had a preliminary, or we had a discussion on this, the meeting we had last week with the architect. And because of the stormwater management, new regulations under stormwater management, this bid, when it was put out last year, was put out under the old requirements. Well, the regulations have changed in the interim, so now we go through a completely new process. And even at that point, because it was changing not only to new regulations, but it changed from one agency to the other. It went from DCR to DEQ. All of the guidelines and the requirements were not really clear at that point in time. So once we submitted the application, now DEQ has reviewed the stormwater management plan that was submitted. They have sent it back with comments. It's been revised. Anyway, this is where we're at. There's an additional cost to meeting the new stormwater regulations to handle stormwater runoff over there once we build a new transfer station. The engineer's estimate of what they thought we were going to be looking at was $75,000. They had been discussing it with the contractor who was awarded the bid for construction of the facility. They did not have a finalized change order, but they thought it was going to be in the $75,000 range. I've waited, I told him, I said, I need that before I go to the meeting next week. As of 3:15 this afternoon, I did not have that. I contacted the engineer. He said they were had been talking to the contractor during the day. At 10 to 5, I sent him a text and said, or sent him an email and said, text me the number when you get it. So he did after the meeting started. The number that's been provided to them, total amount is $84,626.69 for the change order to deal with the new stormwater regulation requirements.
What was the initial cost?
Well, I mean, it was, as what was put out in the bid did not include the new stormwater regs.
What was the bid under though?
Well, there wasn't a bid specifically for this. The transfer station bid, I don't recall the total amount for construction of the transfer
This
station.
wasn't included in?
No. This is additional cost in order to meet the new stormwater management regs.
What was that number, Mr. Poe?
$84,626.69. And I wouldn't have brought it in this fashion. I would have just held it till next month. But if the weather breaks and it warms up or dries up, they'll be able to get started on this because they won't be able to do anything else until they get started on the initial erosion and sediment and the initial stormwater management portion of the project.
What other choice do we have?
I mean, the only other thought I would have had was that had the engineer been able to have a little more time to look at everything, and see if they felt like there was something in there that would help, or that they might be able to get the cost down on. But when he sent me this, he brought up a couple of things, and he said the prices on what they had provided on some of that was really good. So these are just the additional cost of having to meet the stormwater regs. And this is going to affect a lot of projects in the future, unfortunately.
If you don't care, could you get a copy of that invoice to give us next meeting?
Oh, I'll have a copy of the change order. I'll see that
Okay.
yeah, we'll get you a copy of the change order.
Okay, entertain a motion for change order number 1 for $84,626.69.
So move.
Motion here, second.
Gotta do it.
A motion is second, any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, none. Okay, reports and recommendations of the county attorney. Reports and recommendations of the county administrator.
I do have some.
Imagine that.
I was kind the other night. You all had all the extra dialogue. Our health insurance for county employees, we've had notification that there will be no increase this year. And we're required to notify, or requested to notify them by April 1st if we are going to go back with local choice, which is Anthem. And I would recommend that the board approve renewing that, or notifying them that we will be back in the local choice
Need a
program.
motion consensus.
Motion.
Okay.
Motion that we renew the local choice for the health
Okay,
insurance.
got a motion on the floor here, second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, none.
Also, on another project, the Baileytown Water Project, we had a meeting last Monday to try to get that kicked off. In order to move this project ahead as well, it has not been put out for bid yet, but it is being funded in part by a community development block grant. In order to facilitate the block grant and to speed the process of getting contract negotiations with the state underway and getting under contract on that, there are certain documents that are required to be adopted by the Board of Supervisors. These are all standard documents that we've done for every block grant for several years that we've had. It's the Fair Housing Compliance Certification, a residential anti-displacement and relocation assistance plan, the Lee County, our local business and employment plan, the Section 504 grievance procedure, the site accessibility checklist, a non-discrimination policy, and a resolution just stating that if we receive the grant funds, we will appropriate them and spend them on the project. We sort of bundled them. The last few times we've done this, we've bundled them all together under one master resolution to keep them adopting each one individually. So resolution that you've been handed, 15-007, incorporates all of those into that, and a motion to adopt that resolution will automatically adopt all those others in. One reason I asked if these needed to be done quickly, because at the project meeting we held the other day, I heard the comment that they wanted to get this out to bid as quick as possible because they don't want to miss this portion of the year is the best time to get good bids for projects like this. So if you wait too late into the season, contractors get busy and have too many other projects to do and your bids go up. So that's one reason I want to go ahead and hand carry this in tonight and get this approved so we can further our contract negotiations with the state.
Okay, make a motion to approve resolution 15-007 and 15-008.
Second.
Got a motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any discussion? Opposed? None?
And the only other thing I'll have will be the request for closed session for investment of public funds.
Reports and recommendations of the board, Mr. Crabtree.
Have none.
Mr. Bowles?
None.
I have none. Ms. Rhodes?
I know, actually, yes, the only thing I want to say is I'm still been trying to get in touch with Comcast regarding some extension of some lines, even though they are in the process of, I guess, changing part of our system over to a different company. I have not been able to make that contact as of yet, but I will keep everyone posted when I can. That's all I have.
Okay. This time we'll go into executive session.
Make a motion, we go into closed session. Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A6 for public funds and A3 for acquisition of real property.
Okay, got a motion on the floor here, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion?